Welcome to Meta Mentality, where we talk about the latest news in esports and what it really means. We have the story of Sinatraa, 2019's OWL MVP and champion, has retired from the Overwatch League. What it means is the real question that we're going to be asking now, and what we want to know is whether or not this is going to be something that'll be good for his career as someone that was at the very top of the Overwatch League. Will this translate to him being the very top of Valorant, or will he become just another professional? Let's find out more. What do you think, Beatdown?
Well, I want to start off with I really doubt he's being paid like any other professional. That kid is definitely raking it in, even with Sentinels, even after leaving the Overwatch League. But overall, I think just on the face value, just saying, oh, Sinatraa retires midseason, yeah, it doesn't look really good. But I think it looks worse if you look at why. If you read his tweet longer, he talks about how, again, I mentioned it in the last video, where players are not they don't have that passion, that love for the game anymore, and that's because of how much it's changed in these last couple of years, especially in the last year with Rolock, with hero pools, and Sinatraa cited those two as being pretty big reasons and indicators for when he realized he didn't love Overwatch the way he used to, and that is a serious red flag for Overwatch because at the end of the day, I don't think there's been an esport that changes as quickly and as widely, I guess the word is, just as a completely different game than it has been previously. And this doesn't happen much in other esports. Yeah, there's patches, there's changes into how the game has been played from previous years, but the change is just too drastic in Overwatch, and it's clearly a problem that's affecting pros. Your 2019 champion and MVP, whose skin isn't even out, by the way, is just retiring. And he didn't even wait till the end of the season. We're in April. We're basically like end of April, early May. He just calls it quits.
That's an interesting point. I mean, obviously, he is still under contract. He would have had to terminate that contract with San Francisco to
Yep.
pursue his career with Valorant. Why do you feel that he would choose to leave in a situation like that, where Valorant, as strong as it has had a beta launch, it still is a game in beta. It doesn't have a professional scene yet. Don't you think that this could potentially be a risky move, even in light of the fact that it is obviously so popular right now, and Overwatch is clearly shall we say, just experiencing something of a lull in its intensity in terms of its viewership and fandom. Spencer, what do you think about that?
So, I mean, this kind of like a two-pronged question that you're sort of asking: is this good for Sinatra? Like, in terms of how bad it is for the Overwatch League as a whole, I think it's being overblown a little bit. Obviously, it's never a good look when one of your best players, and the former MVP, former World Cup winner for the USA, retires halfway through the season. Especially, it's one thing if it's at the end; it's another thing if it's halfway through. With that being said, I think it was in a very specific situation. Sinatra wasn't exactly getting a ton of playing time with the San Francisco Shock. Obviously, they're notorious for rotating a bunch of different players. So whether this was like a pure Overwatch issue or maybe just Sinatra himself, like you said, he was burnt out from the game, but that doesn't mean that other people are as a whole. Um, the league is bigger than one player. I always use this example all the time. Like, Michael Jordan left the NBA for a couple of years, went and played baseball. NBA is still fine. Obviously, Overwatch League is in the NBA, but Sinatra also is Michael Jordan, right? So they both scale. Um,
Mm.
the point I'm trying to make is that one of the benefits of going to this geographical location that the Overwatch League chose to do by going and making, NRG in San Francisco is that a lot of their fans aren't based, or like they didn't gain a lot of fans based on like pure individual talents, right? This isn't like if Scump Law left Optic way back in the day, right? You would have seen a lot of fans leave Optic. I think in terms of the San Francisco Shock, they're going to be fine. I don't think you're going to see a drastic drop in viewership when Sinatra all of a sudden isn't there. He wasn't there most of the season anyways. In terms of being on a starting roster, I think the Overwatch League is going to be fine. I think San Francisco is going to be fine. It's obviously not a good look. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's a lot of other issues that with Overwatch that Beatdown had previously mentioned. Like you said, I think Hero Pools has had a pretty negative reaction overall. I think you could yeah, I think you could argue how good it's been for the game, but for the most part, it's not like an overwhelming positive addition. Obviously, the homestands being canceled has hurt a lot. Obviously, tier 2 is deteriorating, declining viewership, competitors being released. Like, there's a lot of issues that Overwatch has to deal with, and I think Sinatraa retiring isn't necessarily the biggest one on their plate, right? In terms
Maybe.
of what could cause some issues moving forward. So that's sort of how I think about the Overwatch League. In terms of whether or not it was a good move for Sinatraa, I think Beatdown brought up some pretty good points in terms of like, there's a lot we don't know. People who are saying like, I can't believe someone would leave the job security of the Overwatch League for a game that's only in beta. You're assuming that he left for like
pennies.
You're assuming exactly. Like, he's obviously getting a really good contract.
He's getting paid.
He's absolutely getting paid. So if we knew, and I don't know what the sponsorship deals were like under the Overwatch League contract, like I don't know how easy it is to gain sponsors now that you were playing for somebody like Sentinels. Obviously, I don't know what his monthly salary is like. Obviously, I don't know how much additional money he can now get because he can potentially stream more. Like, there's so many unknown variables. But in terms, like, he's going to be fine. Right, and he can even play Valorant for an entire year, and I guarantee you, if it ends up not working out, he can just go back to the Overwatch League in 2021. Right? There's no doubt in my mind that Sinatra's not still going to be talented enough to go to the Overwatch League, unless you're of the position that maybe Overwatch League and in 2021/2022, in which case his move looks even better.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I think it was a pretty good move. I think he's going to be okay. And the final part of this is I don't think that you're going to see a ton of players follow suit. One, Sinatra's in a pretty unique situation where he has a big enough brand and maybe a big enough skill set to become a professional Valorant player. And also, two, you're not going to see super follow suit, right? Like, you're not going to see a lot of tank mains. You're not going to see a lot of support mains, or even flex DPS players follow suit and go into Valorant. And unless we start seeing that, I think they're going to be fine.
I mean, I think we're going to start seeing it. That's all I'm saying.
Mid-season, or you're talking about end of the year?
Depends on their situation. Again, we previously talked about Vancouver Titans and how John was already let go. I'm sure there are other players who are probably on the chopping block too. Who knows?
Yeah, but
retirement.
John's not going to Valorant.
Why not?
I don't think he has a skill set. Like, I mean, again. Like,
anyone. Listen.
The Overwatch tank mains.
Hey, listen, man. Have you seen Gesture's Widowmaker? That's all I'm gonna ask you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I have
It's not that you have it, bro. I'm gonna show you a video when we're done because that boy clicks heads, and it's absurd.
But he's going up against so many different like former CS:GO pros.
I don't care. Here's the thing.
Invitational, but
I mean, we have seen other former Overwatch pros start playing more in the Valorant beta and playing in the tournaments. We've seen guys like Taimu. We've seen, I think, IDDQD.
Taimu makes more sense.
We've definitely seen players that had their shot in the Overwatch League and through various reasons have either moved on, either because of their own interests or because they didn't really fit in the teams they were playing on. Make the move. So there's no question it'll definitely be an appealing option for players. But speaking about Sinatraa specifically, Sentinels is an interesting move. He joins a team where they've announced at least 4 of their roster of their 5. They've got Shazam, who is a former CSGO pro, as well as Sick. Both of them played on Complexity Gaming. And then Zoms. Zoms was a former Overwatch pro himself, and then moved to Apex. Now, when you look at the talent, I feel like there's a real gulf between Sinatraa and the rest of the talent that they have on that roster. Do you feel that this is something that's going to affect him when he actually makes that jump over to Valorant, getting, arguably mediocre or mid-tier kind of professional esports players to go along with a guy that is arguably one of the best that Overwatch has ever seen?
But he's one of the best at Overwatch. Oh, sorry, I was gonna take this one. He's one of the best that Overwatch has ever seen. But in a Zarya / Doomfist,
Tracer,
but these aren't like necessarily heroes that I think would translate as well to Valorant as like a Widowmaker or a McCree specialist, someone like Taimu, for instance.
Right. So in that sense, though, I mean, if you've got a player like Sinatraa who has shown that he can play at the pinnacle of Overwatch League, if he's doesn't have the skill set to make him that same kind of player in Valorant, it does make you wonder whether or not that's going to be something that'll work out well for him in the end. I think it'll be interesting to see as he gets paid now in the short term, whether that's something that's going to be able to be maintained in Valorant, or if it's going to be something that will ultimately let him down in the future as his career doesn't necessarily reach the trajectory that it may have in Overwatch.
Okay, so Spencer, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, I know you're looking at it from okay, what's Sinatra's hero pool? Does that transfer over to Valorant? But what you're omitting and not seeing is that these weren't heroes he always knew how to play. Sinatraa was one of those guys who he had to learn a hero. He would learn it and become elite at it. Like at the end of the day, he had a Zarya before Overwatch League Season 2. Wasn't great. Probably not. He's a DPS player. He had a Zarya. He could play it, but nobody could have predicted he could have been, or what he would have become, which was literally at least he did win MVP, but even for the first 2 stages where it was just goats being run, he was the best player in the Overwatch League beyond question. He took Zarya to a level nobody had ever seen before. Not just the mechanics, but with how smart he became. The same thing became of his Doomfist. He never played Doomfist before, because like we always saw Sinatraa as a hit scan player. He had his soldier, he had his Tracer, the hero he made his name for himself on. But now Doomfist becomes meta. Rollock comes in. He just instantly becomes, because I'm looking at Rascal. I'm looking at Architect maybe, both really. Not even really fantastic projectile players who you'd expect to play the Doomfist. No, ended up being Sinatraa. And aside from Haksal, the only other elite Doomfist really in the league at the time. It was Sinatraa and Haksal.
I was gonna say at the time, because Chips sort of came in there and took that from him.
Get out of here.
I understand what you're saying in terms of just his ability to adapt. And there's no mind that Sinatraa did put his brain to it and grinded the game out that he could become a really good Valorant player. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. The question is he going to be like an MVP Valorant player, for instance? And it's easy for you to say, like, I do agree that his skill set could potentially translate, but I think that there's enough there to at the very least be like his hero pool isn't as what you would consider an ideal let's call it transferable skills outside of just his ability to like learn and pick up stuff. So I don't know. I still think that there's a lot of other potentially better players out there who come from more like heavy FPS, mechanical skill focused games such as CSGO or Rainbow Six or even like Apex. So I'm not going to give him that crown yet. I wouldn't be like shocked if he became really good because you are right. I do think that he's a special sort of esports athlete, if you want to call it that, with the ability to transition to different games. But my initial thought would be, there's bound to be either people we haven't heard of who are going to surpass him, or there's going to be, like you said, former CSGO pros, former Apex pros, or current CSGO pros who are going to come over there and be able to like hold their own, if not surpass. But we'll see.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll see, because at the end of the day, one thing Valorant has over CSGO is resource management is a lot more important because of the different and dynamic abilities that all the operators, or all the agents, have in the game. So that's actually something even Richard Lewis said. He actually, even though he's not exactly my go-to for anything related to Overwatch, because he notoriously hates the game apparently, but he positively said that Overwatch players will likely surpass CSGO pros, because at the end of the day, Overwatch is a game of resource management. At the end of the day, it's abilities and cooldowns, because it was the most important part of the game. It's something you could easily transfer over to Valorant. And not only that, the ability to adapt is very much a transferable skill. So I'll agree with that. No problem could I see Sinatraa being a top player. But, Eric, you bring up a good point. The rest of Sentinels leave much to be desired. Because, again, like you said, there's Zombs, is
Sick. Shazam. Yeah,
Luminosity, never that impressive of a team during its time.
Complexity,
it was always,
but yes.
Or complexity, yeah. They weren't like, they were never top tier or anything like that.
Not for a very long time anyway.
No.
I think their last S tier championship was back in 2010.
There you
so
go.
they're a team that's like, it's been around a long time. It was a very storied organization, but in the years in which these players have been a part of that organization, it hasn't really achieved the heights that it had in the past. I think no matter what, I think we can all agree that Sinatraa is a very special esports athlete. That
Yeah.
I think no matter what he's going to be doing, he will make some sort of an impression. But it will be, I guess, time will tell whether or not he's going to achieve the kind of heights and success that he did in Overwatch League when he moves over to Valorant. Thanks for watching Meta Mentality. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on social media. Find out where to follow us in the links below.